Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, my name is Michelle. I make videos focusing on all things sewing. So sewing vlogs, sewing tutorials, and even running my small business, which is called Pamper & Co. And I make all handmade items using mostly secondhand materials. So if that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be notified when I post new videos. In this video, I wanted to make a denim bucket hat using denim scraps. Over on my Instagram page, I had posted a reel making a denim patchwork bucket hat for a customer who had requested it. I had 2 or maybe 3 people asking if I had a video showing the whole process, and I was like, okay, this is the perfect time since I'm getting my YouTube channel going. So I'm going to show you all of the steps on how to make this bucket hat. Okay, so let's get started. I want to apologize in advance if my AC kicks on while I'm filming this video, but I need my AC. I need my AC because it's hot. I'm in New Orleans and temperatures have been triple digits. So I need my AC. So I apologize in advance. So since we're making a bucket hat, you will need a bucket hat pattern. I'll link the one that I use in the description, and it's a very good pattern. So I'll link that one for you. The bucket hat pattern will come as a folded pattern for each piece, but I just extended the pattern so it can make the full piece of the pattern. So this is the brim of the bucket hat, this is the top, and this is the band. So it's only 3 pieces for this make. Since we're making a denim patchwork bucket hat, you will need scraps of denim. So if you want to just go to the thrift store, you can buy 2 or 3 pairs of denim and just mix it with the different washes. So you can buy traditional wash, light wash, whatever types of wash you want to make your hat. So since I'm always buying denim for my business, I'm always having scraps of denim. So I was able to pick some pieces from my bins. The good thing about patchwork or like scrappy projects, you don't have to be really perfect and precise with anything. You can cut out random pieces and then just piece them together as you go. So that is what I'm going to do for now, and just get some scrap pieces from all of these denim scraps that I have. And just make everything interesting. These details here from the pocket, when you take the pocket off, this is a good detail to have on your project or on this bucket hat. It'll give it some dimension and just some character. And I would say maybe make your pieces maybe like 4x4 or 3x4 pieces. You don't want the pieces to be too small, because you want to try to make this like a quick make. You don't want it to take you too long to make this bucket hat. So I would say make your pieces like 4x4 or 3x4 or even bigger. I cut out some pieces here. Now I'm going to lay all of these pieces out to see where I stand and see if I'll have enough to cover each pattern. So I will need 1 cut of the bucket hat top, 2 cuts of the band, and 4 cuts of the brim. I think I'm going to start with the top, since I only need 1 piece cut of the top. So let's kind of spread these out. So what I like to do is just mix all of the washes, so it's not like just all medium wash in one area and then light wash in this area. I want them to be mixed very well so that it can, you know, just give it some interest. And what I did the last time, I just overlapped each piece on top of each other, maybe like a ½ inch. So when I get to my sewing machine, I could just stitch right on top of each piece and it'll catch all of the pieces together. I'm just going to overlap it here while I'm at the cutting table to see if this will fit the pattern piece that I'm about to put on here. So once I get all of the pieces together to make a pattern piece, I'll just go over to my sewing machine, stitch all of this together, cut out my pattern piece, spray a little water on it, and pop it in a dryer for about 10 minutes so all of the free edges can get more distressed than what it is. Okay, I think I'm gonna switch this since the pattern piece will be right here. I want this detail on the top, so I'm gonna switch these two pieces and put this right here. Okay, this is how I want all of my pieces to look right here. Now I need to transfer this over to my sewing machine so I can go ahead and start stitching all of these patches together. So I'm going to sew here, here, everywhere you see an edge for each patch, you have to sew all of those down so this will become one piece of fabric so you can cut out your pattern piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm just taking a scrap piece of fabric, a piece of muslin, and I'm going to slip this under so I can transfer all of these pieces on this muslin. This is what I should have done before, but I'm doing it now. So now with the muslin fabric underneath all of these, I can just pick up this and transfer it to my sewing machine. Okay, my AC just kicked on, so again, I apologize if you hear any background noise. I'm going to start from the bottom and try to keep the same pattern that I have with the denim scraps. So I'm going to start from the bottom and just grab these two pieces and stitch this down here all the way down. And I'm leaving just a little space in between, so when I put some water on it and put it in the dryer, this will free up a little bit. But I'm just leaving maybe a quarter of an inch from where the edge of the denim scrap is. This piece was here, so I'm going to take this bottom piece and place it right underneath and sew it down here. I just grabbed the pattern piece just for reference, just to make sure I'm still in the same area and I'm not sewing this too small to where it won't fit anymore. So I just brought my pattern piece over just to make sure, and I still have enough space right here. Now I'll pick up these three pieces and stitch down here and right here, and then once I stitch there, then I'll stitch going up. Now I'm going to pick up this row and stitch here and here, And then once I get this strip, I'll put this back under this piece and then stitch down this way. And I'm just double checking to make sure that both pieces are overlapping. Okay, here are the two last pieces here. No, I'm gonna put these on top here and make sure, get my pattern piece. Yep. Okay, we got our first piece of fabric here. We're gonna bring it back to the cutting table, cut all of these threads off, and cut our pattern piece out. Okay, all of the threads are cut. So now we can place our first pattern piece on here. Just get your position where you want everything to be placed on the piece, the pattern piece. And I think I want this detail. I want all of these details, so try to get them all on here. All right, here is the first pattern piece. So now what I'm going to do is spray a little bit of water on it and pop it in a dryer for about 5 to 10 minutes. Before I pop it in a dryer, I wanted to show you that I did wet it. And sometimes what I'll do to kind of speed it up a little bit, I'll start fraying it with my hands a little bit before I actually pop it in the dryer. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, the next pattern piece that we're going to work on is the band. So we need 2 cuts of this piece here. So let's see what scraps that I already cut out. Let's see what we can make to cover 2 pieces of this pattern. I need about this size to cut out 2 pieces. And one thing that I forgot to do is put my muslin underneath this. Ugh. Okay, let's do that first. All right, let's try this again. So while I'm working on this, I just want to know in the comments if this is your first time clicking on one of my videos. Just let me know if it is. I'm just interested to know. And you can say hi to me and I'll say hi back. I just want to welcome everybody joining in and clicking on the video. All right, that's going to fit there. See if this will be enough. And it looks like it will be. So I need 2 pieces I'm just making sure that I have enough to cut out 2 pieces here. So put my hand, and this looks like enough. Now we're going to bring this over to the sewing machine. So since I have it in rows, it makes it easier to just keep track of it and sew it. So you can start with one row, stitch this row down, and then put that on the side, and then start on the middle row, stitch this down, and then the top row, stitch this down. And then you can piece these 3 together. So sew along this line and then sew along this one, and then you'll have your piece of fabric, and then you can cut out your pattern pieces. Always remember to overlap your pieces, and you know, just to make sure you're not missing any of the scraps. I think I'm gonna use my rotary cutter for these pieces. Let's see if I can get through. Now I can put some water on these and pop these in the dryer. Okay, now it's time to work on the brim. So I would need 4 pieces of this brim, 4 cuts. So 2 cuts is going to be for the outside of the bucket hat, and underneath the brim, underneath the bucket hat, I want it to be a denim piece. So I would need 2 pieces for the outer, 2 pieces for the inner. This, one more piece. It looks like this spread that I have now is going to cover 2 pieces of the brim, so 2 cuts. So I'm going to work with this first and then come back and work on the other 2 pieces that I need of the brim. Okay, this piece is done. So after this, we have one more. Clean up as you go. I find that easy, and you know, it just makes for a clean project. You won't forget about cutting off all of this stuff towards the end. You don't want to wait. Once your project is done, most of the time you're just ready to get it over with. So it's probably best for you to just clean as you go and just cut all of these tails off now so you don't forget it towards the end. And that was one thing I forgot to mention. The interior, the back of your pieces, you're going to have some little scraggly pieces that's just hanging on here. So if you want, you can carefully cut off like the excess if you don't want all of this bulk on here. It's not really bulk, it's just hanging on. You can just snip those away. Let's move on to the last two pieces of the brim. I'm not gonna forget this time. I'm not gonna forget this time. There we go. There we go. I took these out of the dryer and now you can see how it actually looks. So this is after I wetted and I picked out everything. It's nice and distressed. So now I can go and just hit this with an iron right quick. And we'll start on cutting the pattern pieces for the interior of the hat. Okay, I ran an iron over these pieces. Now I think I saw a few little flaps. I want to kind of cut these off so they, just don't get in the way. For the interior of the hat, I am just going to use some muslin for the interior. These are the only 3 pieces that we need muslin for, or your interior fabric. You're only going to need 2 pieces of the band and 1 piece for the top. And this is going to be the interior of your hat. All right, we have our pieces. We have the outer top, 2 outer pieces for the band. Now we're going to construct these 2 as 2 sets. So this is going to be constructed together, the outer, and this is going to be sewn together, the interior. First, we're going to work on the interior. We're going to put the bands together, right sides together, and we're going to sew each side of the band. And all of the seam allowances and all of the instructions on how to construct a regular basic bucket hat will be included with the pattern. And again, that pattern is linked below. We have sewn this right sides together. Now we have to attach the top to the band. So just remember, this could get a little tricky when you're sewing this, but just remember that the widest part of the hat is the bottom. The shortest part is the top. So just remember that this longest part on the bottom of the band is the bottom. So we're going to sew this top on the shortest part of the band, and this is right sides together. But before we do that, in order to make this easy on ourselves, we're going to do is put the seams together and stretch it to each side, and we're going to make a little notch on each side. Stretch it to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom of the band. We're going to have to attach the brim to the interior, so we're going to make the notches on the bottom and the top. All of our notches are made, so now we're going to do the same thing for the top. So you just fold this circle in half, and on each side we're going to make a little notch. Once you make those two notches, you just match each of these notches together right there. Just meet those two. Those two notches, and then make your notches on these sides. Now that the notches are made on your top and your band, it'll be easier for you to match it, pin it, and it'll equally match, so you can sew it together with no gaps in between and no pinching or folding of fabric. Let me get my clips, a good bit of clips. So get your clips so we can pin this together. Always remember, short side is the top, long side is the bottom. So we're going to pin the top on the shortest side. This is where the notches come in handy. So we're taking each notch and matching them up. Notch to one of the seams, side seams, and pin. Next notch. Final notch is the other side seam. Now for the inside of these clips, you can go around and clip the rest of the pattern. Sometimes I feel like the patterns do not exactly meet. So if you run into this problem, I don't know if you can see it here. If you run into this problem, there's a little bit more fabric on the top. So what I like to do is make just a few little snips in the band so I could give it a little bit of ease, and then it'll match perfectly. So I'll just put a little snip there and there. Now I can spread it out a little bit so it'll match with the top. All right, I have everything clipped. Now I have to sew the top onto the band all the way around. And just take your time when you're sewing on round edges. Sometimes it can get a little bent up, but just take your time. Don't go too fast and just adjust it accordingly. I also like to use the stiletto just in case some little extra fabric like to get in the way. This is easy to get close to the needle and just spread that fabric so it doesn't get all bent up. So I'll link us, I think I got this from Amazon, but I'll link this in my Amazon storefront. And I also have some other items in my storefront that you can take a look at. It's a lot of my favorite things that are in my sewing room. But a stiletto is like an essential, especially when it comes to round edges. It's just good to get close to the needle without actually putting your hand next to the needle. This is good to get that fabric underneath that needle and spread out your fabric so it doesn't bunch up like what it's doing right here. You can spread that out with your stiletto. The interior of the hat is now constructed, but actually this will be flipped this way and it'll be inside of your bucket hat, and this will be the interior. So let's put this on the side and construct the exterior of the hat. So again, we're going to do right sides together, and remember this is the short side of your hat, which is the top. Long side is the bottom. Just remember the long side, you need enough room to get your head in the hat. That's how I remember it. So the long side is the biggest opening so you can put your hat on. 2 band pieces together, right sides together, and sew on each end. And remember to always backstitch on your work. Every time you sew, always backstitch. What we did to the interior, we're going to do the same thing to the exterior. So we're going to match the side seams together, and we're going to get the 4 equal parts. So 2 side seams together and match up each end. Side seam together. Stretch it out to the other side and put a little notch. Do the same thing for the bottom. Side seam. So now the top of the hat, fold it in half. Snip. Snip. Take those 2 notches and meet them. And a snip here. We need to construct the band with the top. This is the shortest part of your band, so this is the top. So we're gonna take our notches and meet them with the top pattern. Here's a notch here. Here's a notch here on the band, and put those notches together. Next notch. This notch will meet up with one of the side seams. Last notch, meet up with the other side seam. Now we can clip the rest of the top and the band together. This is looking like it matches exactly, so I don't have to put any snips in my band. Everything is clipped. Now it's time to sew all around here. Okay, now the exterior top of the hat is now done. And once you flip it out, this is how it should look. So this will be the top of the bucket hat before we put the brim on. All right, so now let's go get our brim pieces out the dryer. They should be dry now. The brim pieces are out the dryer. I hit all of them with an iron because they were curling up, but just hit it with an iron so you can get a nice flat base. Now we have all 4 pieces of the brim that we need to construct. Just like the bands, we're going to take 2 of the brim pieces together, right side together. And just like the band pieces, the shortest part of the brim is the top. The longest part is at the bottom. So on the ends. These 2 are done. Let's move on to the other 2. So right sides together and sew on each end. It's coming together now. We have our top of the bucket hat, the exterior. We have the interior top, a brim piece here, the second brim piece here. One of these brim pieces is going to go with the exterior. The second brim piece is with the interior. So just like we did with the band and the top, making our notches on all 4 sides, we're going to do the same thing with the brim to match up with our notches that we made on the bottom of the band. Get your side seams together. Stretch it out. You're going to make a notch on that side. Go ahead and do the same thing for the second piece. Alright, so let's work with our interior first. Remember, we're taking the shortest side of the brim, which is this side. The longest part, leave that part alone. And it's going to be right sides together. So the shortest part is going on the right side. This is the right side. This is the wrong side of your interior. Going to take that notch where we made it right here and match it with your brim. The next notch right here and match it with this notch. Side seam, side seam. Now we can clip the rest of the band to the brim. All right, we have everything pinned, so we can go to the sewing machine and let me put this back in so we can sew all around here. This will give you an idea of how it should look. So it's coming together here, but this is going to be the inside of your hat. So when we construct it, it's going to sit like this. This will be the inside of your hat where you put your hat on. Just make sure everything is sitting flat and there's no bunching, no folding of the fabric. And if you can run into that problem, use your stiletto to smooth it out, or kind of press in the fabric close to the needle. So this is the interior of your hat. Now it's time to attach the exterior brim to the top of the bucket hat. Same method. We're going to flip this inside out. We already made the notches on the band here. So we're going to make the notches on this brim. Oh, we already did that. I forgot I did it already. So we have the notches here, right side, notch, notch. Side seam, notch, notch. Side seam, side seam. Now we have to pin the rest of the brim to the band. The brim is now clipped to the band, so now we have to sew all around. So this is the exterior of your bucket hat. So now all we have to do is attach the interior to the exterior. The easiest way to remember this is the inside of the interior. This is the outside of the exterior. You have to meet these two and press them together like a sandwich. So we're going to sew this right sides together. Flip this on top of each other. And then we're going to sew around the brim, leaving a little gap in between. So when it's all sewn together, this is going to be sewn together. It's going to look like this. And then this is the inside of your hat. Both right sides meet with each other. And you just turn this on top of the right side. So now you just meet the two brims with the side seams. Try to match as perfectly as possible. And then pin this together. Then get your other side seam. Then you can start pinning along the brim. But just remember to keep maybe like 4 or 5 inches gap. Now you're going to start pinning along your brim edge. But just remember to keep about a 4 or 5 inch gap so you can flip this right side out. I would say leave the gap close to one of the seams. So maybe like right here. Try not to put your gap in the middle of your hat because that's where you have to put it on. And if you make any kind of imperfections there, right where your face is or right in front of your hat, you're going to see it most likely. If there's some uneven parts where you have to fold it in, you're going to see it there. If it's more to the side, you're not going to really notice it, or no one else is not going to really notice it. So I would suggest putting your gap so you can flip it in right sides out. Leave it more towards one of your side seams. Okay, so what I'm going to do is mark where I want to keep my gap, just so I don't get confused when I'm going around, because a lot of times when you're going around a simple edge like this, you just want to keep on going. You're going to just keep going, and you may run into this part here where you have to keep open, and then you'll have to seam rip it open. So to avoid that, just make two little marks where you want to start here, sew it around, and then stop right here. Okay, we have it all clipped up. So now I'm going to bring it to the sewing machine and start right here, back stitch it, sew it around, and stop right here and back stitch. This is the fun part. So we're going to open our little gap that we made and pull it from the interior fabric. So you're going to pull that first. And just be careful and take your time and pull everything right sides out. Okay, everything is out. Now we can flip the interior into the exterior. Just fix everything. You're dealing with denim here, so it's a little thick, and you just have to form everything into place. If you're dealing with like a canvas type of fabric, it's suggested that you top stitch right here on the brim, and either here or here top stitch on the hat band or the top, just to keep everything in place. But we're dealing with denim, and I just think that it looks much better if it's just as is. But that's your preference. If you want a top stitch, you can, but I prefer to just leave this as is. You want to try to get this brim as close to the stitch line as possible, just so all of it is out and even. Just push everything out to the seam line, and then you'll put an iron to it so it can lay flat, and then you'll top stitch it. Now, since we're dealing with denim, what I normally like to do is take a mallet and hammer everything down. You have two side seams here, so that's 4 layers of denim that you have to sew through. Sewing through denim anyways is really tough. So in order to make it easy for you, it's better to hammer this down with a mallet or a hammer with a towel. And that will condense this a little bit more so it's not so thick. Okay, so here is one of the side seams here. Just gonna lay it down. I'll have one of these linked as well in my Amazon storefront. So if you don't have one, this is another essential tool to have in your sewing space. So I'm just gonna take it. A regular hammer would also do. I would just suggest that you put like another piece of fabric on top of your garment and just fold it up, and then take your hammer and hammer it that way. Now that everything is hammered down the way I like it, I'm gonna go to my iron and kind of iron this down so it just stays in place before I sew alongside this brim. And also I can flip this in to the seam allowance, make sure everything is even, and then I can run the iron along this edge so it can stay in place, so I can sew this opening closed. All right, we are really on the last step. The last step is to stitch along the brim edge to have a top stitch here and also to close in this opening. Clip these little threads off. I'm going to start stitching on one of the side seams. So I'm going to start here, back stitch, and sew all the way around until I get back to that side seam. Seeing the finish line. Let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go. So that was the tutorial on how to make a denim patchwork bucket hat. Obviously, I cannot put this hat on right now, but I'll put in some clips of me wearing the hat when my hair is not out. Just for reference, I always use the largest size. I've sold many of these bucket hats in my shop, but not the patchwork one. But I always use the largest size because if your head is small enough, you will still be able to fit the largest of the largest size. I always go for the largest size that's in the pattern. So I think it's like an extra large, or it's based on the diameter of your head. But I always use the largest size, and it seems to work for my shop and when I sell certain bucket hats in my shop. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, anything, just leave them down below. If you like this video, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to press the notification bell for upcoming videos. I'll see you guys for the next video.